Hi, my name is Vivian Brazano with Focus on Freedom, and a new addition to winter sports is girls rugby. Let's take a look. Boys rugby was a new addition to winter sports last year, and by popular demand, girls rugby was formed. The team is led by none other than Miss Gray.
Hi, my name is Brianna Glockner. I'm president of the FHS rugby team.
Hi, I'm Belmetta, and I'm back on the rugby team.
Why are you guys so interested in girls rugby?
I'm interested in it because I find it a lot more fun than a lot of other sports. It involves contact, lots of tackling, lots of running, and it's honestly a great team sport. I think the team we have this year is going to do really well this year.
How do you feel about your coach?
I love Coach Gray. She's so funny during practices. She really pushes us. As much as the running can get annoying with conditioning, we all know it's for the better, and we all know it's going to make our team even better this year.
Honestly, I can't top that. Gray is really amazing, and we do love her.
How do you guys feel about your team?
I love our team. It's fun. All the activities we've done so far, they've been really fun. Everybody's great to work with. I think communication on the team's really good, and I think that's.
We went in it really, like one of our first really practices, we went in it, nobody knew each other's names, but I noticed that we all developed this kind of cool relationship, and like when we see each other on campus, it's like, hey, you know? So it's kind of like a family bond.
Yeah, we've all bonded pretty much after the first practice. I feel like everybody should give rugby a shot, boys or girls. It's honestly such an amazing team. It's honestly such a really, really, really fun sport.
Well, you heard it here on Focus on Freedom. My name is Vivian Brazano, and thanks for watching.
The modern wave of feminism has put a lot of issues that haven't been talked about in a long time or have been seen to be put in the spotlight because there's a lot of things that people weren't aware of growing up. It's just mainly just to put like these are issues that need to be addressed. I do think that men have a lot of unspoken societal issues. The main one, it's like stuff like sexual harassment and sexual assault. Many men think that they can't be victims because they are men. Many think that they can't speak of it because they're only traditionally seen as the perpetrator or the predator and not necessarily the victim. Females attempt suicide twice as often as males. Males are 4 times more likely than females to die by suicide. Probably a lot of the issues that keep men from continuing any further and committing suicide are because they're not allowed to grieve and they're not allowed to speak their opinions on this because it doesn't exist necessarily for the society, when in reality it should and it does and it's a real thing. But for females, it kind of speaks a lot that, first of all, in general for both sides, mental illness is a huge thing that needs to be talked about, and especially suicide. In 2016, women working full-time in the United States typically were paid just 80% of what men were paid. At the rate of change between 1960 and 2016, women are expected to reach the equity with men in 2059. I do think that, first of all, the wage gap is real. You see a lot of real-life events where women of the same profession of men, professional waves of men, we're not talking about stuff like restaurants or waitresses, we're talking about stuff like scientists and physicists and actual professional fields that require a lot of education and stuff, that women are typically paid lower than the men in the same thing. So I think that people should just put up behind and see that it's actually a real issue. Women are expected to reach the same amount of pay in 2059 is insane. We first do see the women start working around World War II, and not only were they not allowed to work in the first place, when the men came back from the war, they were kicked out of their jobs, which is crazy. 2059 is years away, and 100 years since 1960, it's just like we need to bring this into a real issue, that it's a real thing. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men have been victims of some sort of physical violence by an intimate partner within their lifetime. 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men have been victims of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Women between the ages of 18 and 24 are most commonly abused by an intimate partner. What many people are not aware of is that domestic abuse happens everywhere. It goes back to a lot of it being normalized. It should go on the other way as well. More women compared to men are abused, but it's also these numbers show that men are abused too, and that's another issue too that we need to focus on, that it's not necessarily just women. So I think there has to be a lot of changes where these people are not dying as young as 18 years old by some normalized problem that society doesn't just sheds an eye to. 1 in 5 women, 1 in 71 men in the United States have been raped in their lifetime. 9 out of 10 victims of rape are female as of 1998. That's 9 out of 10. That's 90% of victims of rape are female. And we see that probably most of this is because of the normalized, as the feminists like to call, rape culture. It happens everywhere. We have to be taught that a lot of this stuff shouldn't be normalized. Consent should be more aware, and as well as taking advantage of people that are very vulnerable or at a very fragile state. And not only is it 1 in 5 women, but it's also 1 in 71 men. It's not necessarily saying 100% women or 0% of men. It shows that it also can happen to men as well. And these numbers can probably be even higher. It's just the fact that rape is such a terrible thing that many people, even in their lifetimes, maybe some of them don't even know that it happened to them, or that just don't want to speak up about it. It's just like the thing that society's not letting them admit it, that they can be victims. And I feel like there should be more representation of male victims. I feel like it is kind of justified that some people may get upset, but they just need to know that there's also, it goes both ways. There's a lot of men that get raped, and unfortunately, but it's just right now the numbers show that women do get raped more often, unfortunately. Females have lower arrest rates than males for virtually all crime categories except prostitution. This paper assesses gender disparities in federal cases. It finds large gender gaps favoring women throughout the sentence length distribution, averaging over 60%. Conditional on arrest offense, criminal history, and other pre-charge observables. Female arrestees are also significantly likelier to avoid charges and convictions entirely, and twice as likely to avoid incarceration if convicted. I was not aware of this. Usually when you think of the stereotypical inmate, what comes to mind is probably a male. Some random white male, even some random person of color male who did some unlawful thing. You can see that there's a difference between male and female offending patterns that are arrested for. I feel like it should almost be 50-50 instead of 60-40 or what it is now, that it's probably a lot more for males to get arrested than females. Probably just the stereotypical thing that we pass down from society to society and generations to generations, that usually all the bad guys are men. No, there's a lot of bad females out there too. I just think a lot of these things need to be talked about. Mental illnesses are a thing, and they need to be brought up, and especially that are not aware, because it's a very hard topic to deal with. A lot of men are victims, a lot of women are victims, but it does not mean you should disregard one or the other for benefit of the other. I just think it needs to be stuff like sexual assault and violence and domestic abuse. It needs to be brought up that both people, or even people that don't identify, to a lot of these violences that occur. And it's part, for me, it comes from the way society thinks. It has been for years.
My name is Max Duen, and today on Focus on Freedom, we're going to be talking about net neutrality.
Net neutrality is the idea that the internet shall be equal across all service providers. In 2014, the FCC announced that they would repeal net neutrality by 2015, but this was countered by the public and the repeal was stopped. However, in 2017, Ajit Pai announced that net neutrality would again be repealed. On December 13, 2017, the FCC voted 3-2 that net neutrality would be repealed.
Max Duen from Focus on Freedom, and here with us we have
Uriel Ortiz.
So, Uriel, I wanted to talk to you about net neutrality today. So, what do you think of the end of net neutrality set by Ajit Pai, and do you think it's really going to go through?
I believe it's not going to go through just because everyone on the internet is declining the end of net neutrality since everyone is so used to the way the internet is now, and with change, no one really wants change, so they're just going to vote no against it.
I'm Max Nguyen for Focus on Freedom, and today we're interviewing Mr. Lummi. So, Mr. Lummi, what do you think of the possible end of net neutrality?
There has been talks in the past about ending net neutrality, and it hasn't happened. Now, it could happen again this time.
So, do you think there's any possible benefits in the end of net neutrality?
No, I don't see any benefit. I don't think anybody sees any benefit, otherwise you wouldn't have it.
Do you think the public backlash against the FCC is going to stop the end of net neutrality?
It could, but it would probably take more than the public. It would take the public, it would take some non-profit organizations who benefit from it.
This has been Max Nguyen for Focus on Freedom on net neutrality.
Good morning, Freedom. I'm Connor Robles, and today we're going to be looking at the newest adventure in a galaxy far, far away.
For 40 years, as the epic space opera Star Wars has captivated audiences around the world, the creation of veteran filmmakers George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Now, the franchise is owned by media giant Disney, who began a new saga in 2015 with The Force Awakens, continued this year with The Last Jedi. So far, the film has scored over 80% on critical websites such as Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. But what do Freedom students have to say about it?
Okay, I'm here with Douglas Bjorkquist. So, Douglas, how did you like the new Star Wars movie?
I really enjoyed the new Star Wars movie, and I thought it was better than the last one. I thought it was better than Episode 7.
Okay, and what specifically did you like about it?
Specifically, I thought that the directing was better in the movie, and that the storyline was much more original than the last one, and it wasn't so parallel to the original Star Wars movies.
Okay, let's move on to the next student. And to change things up a bit, here we have Mason, who has not yet seen the film, but wants to. So Mason, after seeing all of the trailers and the videos for the movie, what has you most excited and interested about it?
It's a Star Wars movie, so I'm going to be interested in it regardless. I'm also interested with the returning characters and see how they've changed or if they're the same. And there's also new characters, and I can't wait to see what they can bring to the film and the legacy that they can carry on. The series has been going on for 30 years, so that's crazy, and I just hope that it just stays performing well.
Okay, thank you very much.
The Disney sequel trilogy will likely conclude in 2019 with the as-yet unnamed Episode 9, and set to be directed by J.J. Abrams. As what does the future hold in store for Star Wars? Fans will have to wait and see.
Alright then, and that's all the time we have for today. I'm Connor Robles from Focus on Freedom. Thank you for watching.